I'm so glad we're doing this.
I can't believe we're doing this.
Okay, so that's one of my questions, which we'll get to. But I just want to know why you like what you do.
People and one-on-one. I'm not great in front of a crowd, but I'm great with just one-on-one, a couple.
Is it like a fun job for you?
Yeah, it's rewarding, but there's the hard part, right? You're dealing with the market. Sometimes markets don't cooperate. Sometimes you're dealing with people when they've lost somebody. But, those are actually when it's the most rewarding because you actually are making a difference. So.
Do most people when they come to you, do they know? Are they pretty astute about their finances? Or would we be surprised at how little most people
I think
know?
you'd be surprised. I think people have a pretty good idea, their day-to-day lifestyle, their day-to-day finances, but things that I think are really elementary are far beyond what most people know or think about.
And people are shy about telling you how little they know.
Yeah.
It's scary to be like, I know nothing about my finances.
Well, that's it, because you get to know people and they don't want to talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they don't even want to talk to their spouse about some of the things. So it's very private. I would say family things and money are things that most people don't want to share with everybody else.
Was this something you always wanted to do, or did you kind of like fall into it?
No.
How did it all come together?
No, I was going to be my life goal was to be a partner at a CPA firm.
Okay.
So my mom had worked at an accounting firm most of the years I was growing up, and I really looked up to the guys that were at her firm, and I thought, that's what I want to be.
And then what happened? Like, how did this happen?
I was actually working at an accounting firm, and I just had the opportunity to start, helping people with planning. And I met a couple that needed some retirement planning. And to be quite honest, they paid me by the hour to put together some ideas. And then I met with their insurance agent, and I met with their investment advisor and put together this really cool retirement plan. Yeah. And I got paid about $100, and then I figured out what the other guys were getting paid, and I was like, I need to change what I'm doing. So,
and something clicked for you in that moment.
Yeah. And it was fun. And it is fun to sit down and put together, especially in retirement, like where you can be efficient and you can help them save money, and they have no idea. It's, most people are experts at the thing that they do. Mm-hmm. And outside of that, it's like me. I can't change the oil on my car. I'd much rather take it to Jiffy Lube. Right. I don't know how much damage I would do to my car. So it's the one thing that we're really good at. That's what I know.
I love that. So everybody's good at something and you're good at this. So why would you try to change your oil, and why would somebody else try to manage all their finances alone? Yeah. When people come in, do you notice that are things a disaster usually, or do you get them at the preliminary?
No, most times, most people come and they've accumulated financial assets, right? Mm-hmm. It's what I call their financial mass. Maybe they have a family cabin, maybe they have some land or their 401k. Some people have a pension. Mm-hmm. And so they have all these different things, but they really don't know how that all comes together to create a plan. And, everybody wants to know, well, how much can I live on? Or what's my number is a popular thing. How much do I need to have to retire? Yeah. And everybody's different.
And isn't it a moving target? I mean, how much do people need to have to retire?
It depends on their lifestyle. I mean, believe it or not, there are people today that live on $2,500, $3,000 a month in retirement, and they live just great. And yet we have other clients that we need $20,000, $25,000 a month, and even that's not enough sometimes. So it just depends on everybody's lifestyle and what they're doing.
It's not a one size fits all, and your job is to accommodate whatever somebody wants to accomplish, right?
Literally, we try to incorporate what their lifestyle is, mm-hmm. and then look at what assets they have, and then see how well does that match up. And most people, because of their lifestyle, I think you intuitively know, hey, I need to have this in order for me to continue to live like this. Right. But they don't know exactly how. So it's fun to bring it in and say, hey, here's what we can do, and here's what your expectations should be. And to be honest, sometimes there's some hard conversations. They just don't have enough to maintain the lifestyle for a long period of time.
When you have the hard conversation, are people mad at you, or are they grateful?
Probably blended. I think there's more frustration. it's hard. How do you change lifelong habits to then live on a lesser amount? Sometimes that's difficult, and sometimes it's good because then we can have a conversation about what happens if you work another 2 years, 3 years, 5 years to get the assets built up and give time to let the money compound. So
we talked a little bit before off camera a few times ago. In the financial world, there's so many like slick, salesy, maybe non-genuine people, and money is so personal and emotional for people. What is it at Atlas that kind of sets you guys apart?
I think maybe to start, I think there's a lot of great financial advisors out there. But being a financial advisor is such a broad term. Like, what's your level of education, experience, and background? What licenses do you have or don't have? So I think you really have to ask the question, who's the guy I'm working with? At Atlas, I think one thing about us is we're very direct. We're straightforward. We talk about how each financial investment or product, how it works. It's easy for someone to say, hey, you can get a bonus. You can get a bonus on this amount of your retirement money. And as long as you use it for income, then you get this, or it grows at this rate. Mm-hmm. And the hard part is the key word there is if you use it for income, because for all of us, we're all going to use it for income. But really that's a way for somebody to say, we're going to hand this money back to you at a set pace. And there's no guarantee that it's actually going to make a return. Mm-hmm. It just says that you can take your money back at a specific pace. And that can be very misleading.
So transparency, what I'm hearing you say when I peel that back is a little just transparency.
Yeah. And dealing with somebody that you feel like, even if you're not going to work with them, they were honest. And sometimes you just have to be honest with somebody. You just say, hey, look, this is exactly how this works. Mm-hmm. And as you talk to them, their idea of what it was isn't aligning with what it really is.
Right.
And sometimes you just have to be comfortable that they may not be your client.
I was just going to say, you have to make that choice. Like, is it more important to be transparent and potentially lose the business, but still be true to your goal?
We have a guy that we met with him many times, and he got sold on the idea that his money was going to get a 20% bonus, and it was guaranteed. And so he went with it, even though we explained to him really the mechanics of how the investment worked versus the income guarantee. And in the end, he still went with it. I'm pretty sure that within a couple years, when he comes back and he sees how the investment performs versus the guaranteed income, I think he's going to be disappointed at a minimum.
And you have to have those hard conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's never, do you ever feel like I told you so? I mean, how do you kind of manage that?
No, because I think everybody's trying to make their very best choices, and they truly want to do what's in their best interest. I think it can be frustrating on our side because I don't feel like they're truly understanding how things work. And if you read up, some of those investment vehicles are deemed to be complex investments. That's a word you'll see. And they're not as straightforward as, hey, I put my money in this account and it earned 3%. So if you put $100,000 in an account earning 3%, a year later, there's $103,000 in there.
Right.
Some of these may seem like they're that straightforward, and then they're really not.
Right. And it's, unless you understand, I mean, it's a really hard, the fine print is really hard for most people to understand.
It is. And, somebody hears an advertisement or hears something and they come in and they're like, hey, where do I get this bonus money? You have to step back and say, well, if they're giving you that bonus of money, how are they doing that all up front?
If you had to say 3 things to look for when you're looking for a financial advisor, what would you say?
Like I said, I would first and foremost want to know who else works with them. Maybe have 1 or 2 references. It's great if it's somebody who has been your parents' financial advisor and they've worked with them for years, I would say. So long, experience and a long-time relationship with someone you know and trust, I would say that's huge. I think education's always a great way, making sure they have designations and, in education. I think that would be really a great way too.
And also just chemistry, right?
Yeah, because not everybody clicks with each other, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a huge part about, is this somebody I feel confident that I can come to and share really personal things. Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it, is that relationship.
Talk to me about the personal nature of money. I mean, I know that's a kind of a broad question, but I mean, it's sacred to people.
It is, and so much of our self-worth and our self-evaluation is tied to our finances. I think I always live by this: never make a big decision if money is tight or you're not financially sound. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to make a big solid decision if you feel like you're nervous or scared about your financial situation.
Do people come to you when let me backtrack. Atlas.
Yeah.
You came up with the name Atlas. I love it. Why don't you tell me why you guys came up with that name?
Well, originally Atlas was a name on a list of grandbabies. So our daughter was pregnant with baby number 3, and Atlas was one of the names she was evaluating or thinking about. So that's where it originally popped up. And at the same time, we were starting this company. So we literally had a meeting and we were throwing out ideas. And as we were talking, I love that name. I don't know if I loved it for my grandbaby.
Right.
So when we knew for sure that the grandbaby wasn't going to go that direction, then it was like, hey, what do you think about the idea of us using Atlas as the name of our company? And if you look at our logo, I mean, it is the weight of the world on Atlas's shoulders. And, you know, when you're dealing with people's money, I would hope that anybody that does that feels like that really people are truly counting on them.
And that's a big responsibility. I mean, do you feel that responsibility, the weight of it all the time?
Yeah. You know, sometimes, especially when the markets aren't necessarily cooperating or when your client's facing some tough things, for sure. I mean, you'll be laying in bed at night and you're like I said, sometimes it's just as general as the overall market or things that are happening. And then other times it's literally a person going through something. Or then there's the excitement of it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, how fun is it? We're dealing with people that get to retire.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the coolest, most rewarding things to see people starting to prepare and then actually pulling that trigger to retire. I mean, it's awesome. So you get both sides, right?
I was going to say, do you have a story of a key moment or an experience that really sticks out for you?
I mean, there's a ton. We have a client. He worked up at Hill Air Force Base for so he was a civilian, and he was working up there for a really large corporation. And he's very successful, had a very high security clearance. And we helped him plan for retirement. And he thought about retiring every year for 3 years. But every time he'd go to retire, they would offer him additional bonuses to stay. And to be quite honest, he's highly needed in his position. He's a truly a leader amongst all of his peers. And he would never say that, but you could just tell. And so it was pretty cool. We were a couple years ago when interest rates were starting to climb. He was eligible for a lump sum buyout. And if he didn't take it at the end of the year, the numbers that were used to calculate that lump sum would have changed his benefit by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so to sit down and help him do all the calculations of if he were to retire or if he were to continue to stay for another year, how that would impact him. Finally, he retired, and it was really fun. Now, I got to tell you, he retired, and then he went right back to work as a subcontracted labor. But it was really fun, and now he is fully retired. This is his first full year, and it's been fun to watch he and his wife travel, go visit. They have a lot of kids, and they're spread out around the country, so it's fun for him to have time and go spend 2 or 3 weeks at a time with each family.
You do a lot of generations of their money. So you do the grandparents, the parents, the kids, and then their kids.
It is. It's amazing. And I guess, my wrinkles will tell you. I mean, I feel like I'm super young sometimes. I still think we're a young married couple. And then you realize that you're working with the 3rd generation or even the 4th generation now. So yeah, it's really fun.
I mean, what does that feel like? It's the ultimate compliment, isn't it?
It is. I had a gal that was Norwegian, and she had such a thick Norwegian accent. And I took care of her for years. This was back when I first started, and I really didn't manage very much money for her. But she just was such a cute lady, and every year we'd have a Valentine's party. We always do, and it's grown into this really big event. But back then there was literally like 6 or 8 women that would come. And this gal would come, and every year she would bring one of her sons. One of her sons would bring her to this Valentine's party. And so we loved it. She was a client for quite a while, and then she passed away. And what is crazy is I didn't see any of her sons for years. And then all of a sudden, they all started hitting the age of retirement. And they bring me in these old business cards that were beat up. They'd been carrying them in their wallets. And so all 3 of her sons and their spouses are clients. And that part is probably one of my favorite things. And so now they're well into retirement, each of them. And now we're like eagerly awaiting to see if we're going to get the next generation of kids.
So cool. And I'm going to embarrass you, but I mean, I don't think all firms drive to Idaho to drop in on people. I see you in public, you know, you'll see the cute little grandma who's so excited to see you. You have these like decade-long relationships with people.
Yeah.
And how do you manage that? I mean, that's a lot of emotional energy to give to all these different people.
I'll say technology, but just know everybody in the office refers to me as technology kryptonite. So I'm not great with it, but I have such an awesome team and people around me. So we use technology to keep track of so many details, not just, dates of birth and everybody's vital information. And we have a great system when it comes to managing money and knowing how to diversify everybody specific to them. It's a pretty cool system there. But even like the small things, like I'll receive text messages of it's the anniversary of when somebody's spouse has passed, so I can do a quick call to them. And and so we really have leveraged technology in a cool way. I think a lot of companies use technology to distance themselves from the client. And I'd like to think we're using technology to create an accent on our relationships.
I love that. Remember that soundbite. What about, that's unusual. I mean, right? Those personal.
For sure.
Is that something you guys really pride yourself on? Is that sets you apart from all your competition?
About 4 or 5 years ago, we hired a business consultant. And so they came in and they looked at our books and they looked at how we ran the office. And this is a very family-owned business. I mean, we have other partners that are not family, but the core of Atlas is family. And so we were literally at our Christmas, we travel as a family every Christmas. And so we were at our family Christmas vacation, and we needed to do this call with the consultant. They'd finally put all the information together. And the gal was great, and she was going through and highlighting everything. And then she said, I need to tell you, you employ too many people. And of course, a lot of them are family, so I'm like, kind of stuck. I can't really let them go. But I told her, I said, we probably do employ too many people, but we grow so rapidly, and I never want us to drop a ball in a relationship. And not to say that we don't, but man, it is nice to know that we have the staff and all these systems in place to make sure that we can take care of people. It would make me feel horrible. I mean, it would just kill me if I thought that I dropped the ball on some of these people that have supported me and my family for almost 30 years. So
that's a major component for you, isn't it?
It is. I mean, one-on-one relationships are everything. I think that's such a fallacy in today's business world. Mm-hmm. I think if you can staff and structure it and invest in all these different software programs that, quite frankly, I can't make them work.
Because you're kryptonite. Yeah.
It's terrible. But honestly, to have a staff, and they all know how I feel. Like, I will tell you this one time, and this lady, if she ever sees this, she'll know she's the one. I have taken people to Social Security back before COVID, when you used to go and do a formal sit down with Social Security and you'd file for retirement. I mean, I've taken probably over 1,000 people to the Social Security office.
Wow.
People over in South Jordan, they know me. I walk in, the security guard's nice to me. He's not nice to most people, but he knows that I'm in there on a regular basis. But I dropped the ball, and I didn't I missed one gal's appointment. And to this day, every time I see her, I'm always, I shouldn't say names, but her name's Judy. And I just have to say, Judy, I am so sorry.
You've been apologizing for 10 years.
It has been at least 10 years, and she will tell you. But it made me feel so bad. I've never done that before, but somehow it didn't get put in my calendar correct. And she filed for Social Security by herself. The people over there helped her. But, like I said, Social Security is a special thing. It's one of those things that I think for every person that files for Social Security, there's this surreal feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm filing for Social Security.
How unheard of that somebody goes down there with you to do that. I mean, you're really holding people's hands through some of the hardest and most challenging financial scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, filing for Social Security is not hard, and really the people there take you through the process. But they do say one or two things that always unnerve people. And so just to have someone there that's done it before and say, hey, no, that's how this works, or that there's a couple things that can just throw you off. And so, yeah, we, to this day, we still, they've changed their systems a bit, but we still make sure everybody gets filed and they have someone with them.
You've talked about this a little, but you do have a lot of support, and it is a lot of family support, and you're growing all the time.
Yeah.
So kind of tell me a little bit about the structure of the office and what your goals and ideas are there.
Yeah. So Atlas, when we started a little over a year ago, we have 5 advisors. So there's myself and 4 others. And then they're supported, I think in total, there's 18 of us now. And so everybody has a role. Some people are more in operations and they help with transactions. We have an investment management team. And so the 5 advisors, along with our analyst, we have 2 CFPs. One of them's also a CPA. And then we also will have outside consultants, other analysts that can come in and weigh in on things. But so we have different groups. So one group is just purely operations. Another one's very investment management. We have the certified financial planners that get into planning. And then we have our client service team, which is huge. The client service team is built so if you call our office, you will get a person. We don't believe in the push a button and try to have somebody help you. That doesn't happen here.
I love that.
If the phone rings more than twice, there might be a good chance that I might pick it up, because I don't like the idea that someone couldn't get us. I mean, this is your money, right? You want to know, is there somebody there and can I talk to somebody? And
you guys are very deliberate about that. You want a certain atmosphere. You want a vibe when people come in. Yeah. You've worked hard on that. Yeah. I think there's something comforting knowing the person that is helping you with your financial decisions, and not just your advisor, but everybody involved in the system. So a lot of times we'll do appointments and people will comment, because usually 2 or 3 different people will come in for parts of our meetings, or sometimes they'll just come in to say hi and say, check in with them. Because like I said, there's something nice when you call an office and you know that person, you know their face and you know about them and their family. Mm-hmm. So, and when you come in and your name's on a board, like, welcome to your appointment. Yeah. Which is really nice also. Kind of fun. Yeah. It's a little bit old school. It's a chalkboard. Or it's a modern chalkboard, but I get a kick out. I mean, there's nothing better than like a handwritten note. Mm-hmm. Probably my favorite thing in the world is I have a lot of really awesome clients, but they're a little bit older. Mm-hmm. And man, when I get like just a cute little cursive note from somebody, I mean, those go right in a file that I have. And those are like the very best. So why not do a cute little handwritten chalkboard so people knew, why not? They know that we knew you were on your way. It means something to people. Mm-hmm. When they walk in, they feel like they're at home with family. Yeah. Like I said, I think it's the blended idea of we have really awesome investment systems. I mean, I love it. I love how cool that part of our business is. And yet the personal touch is still huge too. What about growth? Either you're growing or you're dying. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it is rapid. Most of our growth comes from just friends and family. So this is really foreign to me because we have never formally marketed our business. So I know having you and I have there's just so much. I'm like, I've never done this. But yeah. And why, we've had this conversation. You're like, I never dreamed I'd be doing, being the face of this, but you feel like you have so much information and knowledge and experience. You kind of feel a responsibility to share that.
You get to sit front row with clients, right? So you get to see hundreds and hundreds of people retire, and you see them go through life's experiences. So it's hard to not want to systematize that and have it ready. So, I mean, like I said, so many people go, they work long and hard and they build this awesome retirement nest egg, and then they retire, and that's amazing. And then one of the spouses, one spouse loses another spouse. And I mean, it's one of the most rewarding things to be able to be there with the surviving spouse and say, okay, this is what we planned for. And, men tend to go first as a general statistic. Yeah, I know, but we remember marriage, and it's not uncommon that the husband's a year or two older, and it's not uncommon that a husband passes away roughly 7 years sooner than a wife would. And so, it's fun to still plan with the surviving spouse, and because they had plans, and you're able to put that together and keep it going and offer up insights that maybe a husband had for his wife, that you were there and part of that planning process. So it's fun. And, you'll get a hug at the end of the appointment, and that it wasn't just a money meeting, but it was an emotional meeting.
That's so cool. And today we're doing more the you and the emotions. We're doing the financial stuff more financial stuff on Monday. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about, it's working out. I was thinking of you say it's to alleviate a lot of stress, right?
Yes. People like me a lot better if I've been to the gym. So,
but I was thinking like financial, just like building muscle and things like that. A financial plan is just a little bit at a time, and just discipline and just getting there and doing the next right thing. Can you kind of like talk to me about that?
Yeah, I think I probably never thought about it, but I think that's a great tie, because you think about it. Working out, you can go to the gym, and you can go to the gym and really work out hard for a week or 2 weeks or a month. And you still might look in the mirror and just be like, I'm not seeing much, right? You don't see over the course of weeks or a month huge changes. But if you watch somebody that they just put that as part of their routine, and then all of a sudden a year later, and you're like, wow, that person looks phenomenal, right? I mean, I'm at the gym all the time, and I'm always blown away by the transformation of people that just make it a daily, kind of part of their daily routine. And with money, it's so much the same, because as a young person, you start putting away a little bit of money, and a year later, you're just like, oh yeah. But then when you see that compounding, and then I get to be on the tail end of it, the people that are coming in that they're in their 60s or late 50s, and you see what those years and years of contributing to an employer-sponsored plan like a 401k, or just them putting money away into savings, or taking the leap and buying a rental property. All those little things that at the time they were difficult, but they were little things. And then all of a sudden people come in and they have a really nice, significant net worth. And it's been fun. I mean, I love watching small business owners and their hard work. And some of them, they're just, one of our great clients, he owned an HVAC business. Nothing really amazing or fantastic about that. But he and his family, they just put their head down and they built this business. And to see the long-term impact of a family running a business, and what they have now that they'll leave, it will change not just their grandkids, but their great-grandkids' lives, and maybe even far beyond that. And so that's the fun part, is it's like I said, going back to that gym idea. You're never going to see amazing results after doing one set of curls. But after a couple of years, you're like, wow, that guy's arms are pretty amazing, Yeah. So I think it's very similar.
Okay. Let's see. There was another thing in the promotional stuff. You guys use Kobe Bryant's quote about the basics.
Yeah.
Will you tell me what the exact quote is?
Yeah, never get bored with the basics.
Tell me why that's important to you guys.
I'm not a big Kobe fan, to be quite honest with you. I grew up in Salt Lake, and I'm a jazz fan, so it's hard to, but I just love that concept. I love the idea. So much of the planning we do is so elementary. The tax efficiency and how to invest. Most of what we do you could probably read books on, and they'd be in the most simple books. Like I tell everybody, our tax planning is probably accounting 101. How to not leave the 12% tax bracket when you retire. And it's not anything that's crazy, but it's just knowing how to implement them. And if you look into Kobe Bryant, he had this amazing ability to practice, where most NBA players are practicing twice a day. He would have these crazy early morning, like 3, 4 in the morning workouts before everybody else. And a ton of his workouts were just basics. In fact, coaches would come and they'd say, hey, it's just the most elementary things that you would see that they teach in junior high. Wow. And Kobe would be in the gym working on just basic movements to make himself the best player in the league for many years. So I love that idea. I love in our business, we're not trying to go and do super fancy planning. We're focusing on basics, and I'm surrounded by guys that are incredible at knowing the detail and the basics, and they stick to their guns. I love my team. Like, I have the ability to influence people, and these guys, even if I want to impose, hey, let's do this, they don't. They stick to the basics, and they say, this is where we're going to get our best statistical return based off of risk. I mean, I love it.
Okay, I'm circling back. Why YouTube now? Like, why do you feel like this is important and this is the time?
But to be honest, we just don't have a presence, and there's some messaging. I feel like our firm, me and the other advisors, as we start to put that out there, are going to be things that I think can help people, even if they're do-it-yourselfers. We'll share some ideas and get a little bit detailed, but for the average do-it-yourselfer, hopefully it helps them. But for a lot of people, once again, going back to that Jiffy Lube idea, there's a lot of people that, like myself, I shouldn't change my oil. Like, I can really do some damage. And in the world of finance and investing, there's a lot of people that run the risk of really doing some damage. And so I think we can show people efficiency. We can show them, hey, you don't have to pay fees. And this industry is that you really do need, in fact, I'm going to use this a lot, but you really need to look at your all-in costs. Like, what does it cost me to work with this financial advisor? Not just what is his advisor fee, but where they have me invested. Is that going to have additional fees? Because, you can go and almost anybody at this stage can go online and buy a stock, and there's no cost to own that stock. So you really have to ask yourself, well, if I can own a stock by myself and not pay anything, then why is this guy, if we add up all the fees, why are they 2.5% or 3%? So I want people to start becoming very cost aware. And even if you need a financial advisor, picking one that can tell you all in, this is all the fees that you're going to have to pay. And we think we've built a system that, quite frankly, is way more efficient than everything we've seen.
Okay. I love that. I think I'm done. Let me just look at my notes. Okay. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on as far as the personal stuff and not with all the financial stuff?
Yeah. We were talking about our team. I really should. I mean, my team is my wife, number one. And so I should probably say something about that because this started out, I was just a one-man band. That was me in my car. In fact, even the first company I was with, I used to go in the office of the guy that hired me, and I'd meet clients in there like it was my office. But mostly I worked out in my car, but my wife Cindy was home raising babies, and I'd come home and I'd have paperwork, and she would sit down and fill it all out for me so I could take it to the client and get stuff done. And so even from the very beginning, it was a team. And anybody that's around here knows that she really is the boss. So, yep. She really does. She makes things happen. She's super dynamic. And all the commitments that I end up making, she does an amazing job making sure that we can do them. So,
what is that saying? Like, you're the head, she's the neck?
Yes. Well, I think she's the entire body. I don't know. Like I said, she's incredible. So
you guys are a good team.
We are. And you know what? We do. We mesh really well. I have a lot of shortfalls that she really can come in and cover for me on. So
good stuff. Well, thank you. That was pretty painless, wasn't it?
Yeah, as long as I don't have to see any of this.